It's South Realty Associates, and he thought himself smart enough to be able to get away with pushing his half-senile father out of a third-story window and collect on the double indemnity whole life policy. On that, he had been wrong, but maybe not by much. Shut up, you lagoon, Percy said, but that was pretty much automatic. He had his eye on the mouse. He had reholstered his baton and taken out one of his magazines, but he now tossed the magazine on the duty desk and pulled the baton out of its holster again. He began tapping it casually against the knuckles of his left hand. Son of a bitch, Bill Dodge said. I've never seen a mouse in here before. Oh, he's sort of cute, Dean said, and not afraid at all. How do you know? He was in the other night. Percy saw him too. Brutal calls him Steamboat Willie. Percy kind of sneered at that, but for the time being said nothing. He was tapping the baton faster, now on the back of his hand. Watch this, Dean said. He came all the way up to the desk before. I want to see if he'll do it again. It did, skirting wide of the press on its way, as if it didn't like the way our resident parasite smelled. It checked 2 of the empty cells, and even ran up one of the bare mattress cots for a sniff, then came back to the Green Mile. And Percy standing there the whole time, tapping and tapping, not talking for a change, wanting to make it sorry for coming back, wanting to teach it a lesson. Good thing you guys don't have to put him in Sparky, Bill said, interested in spite of himself. You'd have a hell of a time getting the clamps and the cap on. Percy said nothing still, and he very slowly gripped the baton between his fingers, the way a man would hold a good cigar. The mouse stopped where it had been at before, no more than 3 feet away from the duty desk, looking up at Dean like a prisoner before a bar. It glanced up at Bill for a moment, then switched its attention back to Dean. Percy had hardly seemed to notice at all. He's a brave little barsted, I've got to give him that, Bill said. He raised his voice a little. Hey, Steamboat Willie. The mouse flinched a little and fluttered its ears, but it didn't run, or even show any signs of wanting to. Now watch this, Dean said, remembering how Brutal had fed some of his corned beef sandwich. I don't know if he'll do it again, but he broke off a piece of Brett's cracker and dropped it in front of the mouse. It just looked with its sharp black eyes at the orangey fragment for a second or two, its filament-fine whiskers twitching as it sniffed. Then it reached out, took the cracker in its paws, sat up, and began to eat. Well, I'll be shucked and boiled, Bill exclaimed. Eats as neat as a person on Parish House Saturday night. Looks more like a black guy eating nigger, or eating watermelon to me, Percy remarked. I tried to avoid that word and my brain brought it up anyways. But neither guard paid him any mind, neither did the chef or the press for that matter. The mouse finished the cracker, but continued to sit, seemingly balanced on the talented coil of its tail, looking up at the giants in blue. Let me try, Bill said. He broke off another piece of cracker, leaned over the front of the desk, and dropped it carefully. The mouse sniffed, but it did not touch. Huh, Bill said. Must be whole. Nah, Dean said. He knows you're a floater. That's all. Floater, am I? I like that. I'm almost here as much as Harry Turgler. Maybe more. Simmer down, old-timer, simmer down, Dean said, grinning. But watch and see if I'm not right. He bombed another piece of cracker over the side, and sure enough, the mouse picked that one up and began to eat, still ignoring Bill Dodge's contribution completely. But before it had done more than take a preliminary nibble or two, Percy threw his baton at it, launching it like a spear. The mouse is a small target, and give the devil guys hear me now? How is that now? Better. Alright. Stamping down with his heavy black work shoes, the mouse barely avoided Percy. His last two jumps, first zigging and then zagging, it went under the door with a final flick of its long pink tail. And so long, stranger, it was gone. Fuck, Percy said, and slammed the flat of his hand against the door. Then he began to sort through his keys, meaning to go into the restraint room and continue the chase. Dean came down the corridor after him, deliberately walking slow in order to get his emotions under control. Part of him wanted to laugh at Percy, he told me. Part of him wanted to grab the man, whirl him around, pin him against the restraint room door, and wail the living daylights out of him. Most of it, of course, had just been startled. Our job in E-Block was to keep Rumpus to a minimum, and Rumpus was practically Percy Whitmore's middle name. Working with him was sort of like trying to defuse a bomb when someone was standing behind you and every now and then clashing a pair of cymbals together. In a word, upsetting. Dean said he could see that the upset in Arlen Bitterbuck's eyes, even the president's eyes, though that gentleman was usually as cool as a storied cucumber. And there was something else as well. In some part of his mind, Dean had already been to accept the mouse as, well, maybe not a friend, but as part of life on the block. That made what Percy had done, and what he was trying to do, not right. Not even if it was a mouse, he was trying to do it too. And the fact that Percy would never understand how come it wasn't right was pretty much the perfect example of why he was all wrong for the job he thought he was doing. By the time Dean reached the end of the corridor, he had gotten himself under control again, and knew how he wanted to handle the matter. For one thing, Percy absolutely couldn't stand was to look foolish, and we all knew it. Coisy's foiled again, he said, grinning a little, kidding Percy along. Percy gave him an ugly look and flicked his hair off his brow. Watch your mouth, Four Eyes. I'm riled. Don't make it worse. So it's moving day again, is it? Dean said, and not quite laughing, but laughing with his eyes. Well, when you get everything out this time, would you mind mopping the floor? Percy looked at the door, looked at his keys, threw out another long, hot, fruitless rummage in the room with the soft walls while they all stood around and watched him. The chief and the prez, too. I'll be damned if I understand what's so funny, he said. We don't need mice in the cell block. We've got enough vermin in here already without adding mice. Whatever you say, Percy, Dean said, holding up his hands. He had a moment right there. He told me the next night when he believed Percy might just take after him. Bill Dodge strolled up then and smoothed it over. I think he dropped this, he said, and handed Percy his baton. An inch lower and you would have broken the little bastard's neck. Percy's chest expanded at that. Yeah, it wasn't a bad shot, he said, carefully reseating his head knocker in its foolish holster. Used to be a pitcher in high school, threw 2 no-hitters. Is that right now, Bill said. In the respectful tone of voice, although he winked at Dean when Percy turned away, was enough to finish diffusing the situation. Yep, Percy said. Threw one down in Knoxville. Those city boys didn't know what hit him. Walked 2. Could have had a perfect game if the ump hadn't been such a lagoon. Dean could have left it at that, but he had seniority on Percy, and part of the senior's job is to instruct, and at that time before coffee, before De La Croix, he still thought Percy might be teachable. So he reached out and grasped the younger man's wrist. You want to think about what you're doing just now, Dean said. His intention, he said later, was to sound serious, but not disapproving. Not too disapproving, anyway. Except with Percy, that didn't work. He might not learn, but we would eventually. So what? Percy said, drawing himself up. They ain't in cradle school, in case he didn't notice. Although you guys treat them that way half the time. Well, I don't like to be scared, Bill rumbled. And I work here. Wetmore, in case you didn't notice. I ain't one of your lagoons. Percy gave him a look that was narrow-eyed and a touch uncertain. We don't scare them any more than we have to because they're under a lot of strain, Dean said. He was still keeping his voice low. Men that are underneath a lot of strain can snap. Hurt themselves, hurt others, sometimes gets folks in us like us in trouble, too. Percy's mouth twitched at that. In trouble was an idea that had power over him. Making trouble was okay. Getting into it was not. Our job is talking. Not yelling, Dean said. A man who is yelling at prisoners is a man who has lost control. Percy knew who had written that scripture. Me, the boss. There was no love lost between Percy Whitmore and Paul Edgecombe. But this was still summer, remember, long before the real festivities started. You'll do better, Dean said. If you think this place is an intensive care ward in a hospital, it's best to be quiet. Think of it as a bucket of piss to drown rats in, Percy said. That's all. Now let me go. He tore free of Dean's hand, stepped between him and Bill, and stalked up the corridor with his head down. He walked a little too close to the president's side, close enough so Flanders could have reached out, grabbed him, and maybe head-whipped him on his own prized hickory baton. But Flanders been that sort of man. Flanders been that sort of man? He wasn't, of course. The chief perhaps was. The chief, if given a chance, might have administered such a beating just to teach Percy a lesson. When Dean said to me on that subject, when he told me this story the following night, was stuck with me ever since, because it turned out to be a kind of prophecy. Wetmore doesn't understand that he doesn't have any power over them, Dean said. That nothing he does can really make things worse for them. That they can only be electrocuted once. Until he gets his head around that, he's going to be a danger to himself and everyone else down here. Percy went into my office and slammed the door behind him. My, Bill Dodge said. Ain't he the swollen and badly infected testicle? You don't know the half of it, Dean said. Oh, look on the bright side, Bill said. He was always telling people to look on the bright side. It got so much he wanted to punch his nose every time it came out of his mouth. Your trick mouse got away at least. Yeah, but we won't see him no more, Dean said. I imagine this goddamn time Percy Wetmore scared him off.